and brakes squealed and steam hissed as the locomotive reached the station and slowed so that the passenger cars came to a stop next to the platform. The baggage and freight cars were farther back. As the train clattered to a halt, Denny straightened and took a step away from the post where she'd been leaning. She hooked her thumbs in the gun belt and watched with idle interest as porters put steps in place next to the cars so the passengers could disembark. A variety of men, women, and children got off, all of them strangers to Denny. Then she drew in a breath so sharply that her nostrils flared slightly. She stood up straighter as her backbone stiffened. Her blue eyes fastened on two men who had just stepped down from one of the cars. The first man was tall and slender, well dressed in a brown tweed suit and dark brown bowler hat. He had light brown hair and a mild, pleasant-looking face. He held a small carpet bag in each hand. The man who came down the steps next carried himself with an entirely different air about him. He had a self-assured spring in his gait, and as he paused, pushed his coat back, and rested his fists against his hips, he gave off so much confidence that it bordered on arrogance. He wore a dark gray suit and had a black slouch hat pushed back on thick, curly black hair. A smile broke out on his handsome, olive-skinned face as he looked around the platform. "So this is Big Rock, eh?" he asked his companion. His voice had a slight accent to it. "That's right, sir," the taller, diffident-looking man replied. "Big Rock, Colorado. I looked up the population and elevation and other interesting facts about the town, and if you'll give me a moment, I'm sure I can recall them." The second man waved away the offer. "No, it doesn't matter. We're here at the last, Arturo. You can go seek out accommodations for us." "Of course, sir." Despite the Italian name, Arturo's voice had no accent at all, other than an educated, cultured one. "And where will you be? When you've secured rooms and placed the bags in them, ask someone for directions to the best dining and drinking establishment in town." Arturo inclined his head in a gesture that was almost a bow and said, "As you wish, sir." Over by the pillar, Denny was still watching the two men when Sheriff Carson nudged her and said, "They're a pretty fancy pair, aren't they?" "You could say that." Monty looked more closely at Denny and asked, "Are you acquainted with those fellas? You're glaring at them sort of like you wouldn't mind whipping out that lightning and blazing away at them." "I don't know the taller one," Denny said, "but the other man, I'm acquainted with him, all right. You're not far off the mark, Sheriff. If anybody ever deserved to be shot, or at least horsewhipped, it's—" She didn't get to finish what she was about to say, because at that moment, exactly the sort of thing Denny had just been talking about happened. 5 rough-looking men in range clothes who had drifted onto the platform yanked pistols from their holsters and opened fire on the 2 well-dressed newcomers to Big Rock. Chapter 2. The black-haired man's cocky grin and casual attitude vanished in a fraction of a second. In the time it took the gunmen to draw their weapons and start shooting, the man dived at Arturo and tackled him. The carpet bags went flying. Both men sprawled on the platform as guns blasted and bullets sizzled through the space where they had been standing only a heartbeat earlier. Some of the slugs smacked into the side of the railroad car. Others whined dangerously off the car's metal undercarriage. The would-be killers had spread out as they approached, so they had their intended victims almost surrounded. Most of the people on the platform screamed or shouted in alarm and scattered when the shooting started. With so much open area around them and no place to take cover, the intended victims were doomed. Or they would have been, if Denny and Sheriff Carson hadn't been there. Denny's right hand dropped to the pistol on her hip and swooped back up, gripping the gun. The draw was almost too fast for the eye to follow. Flames spouted from the muzzle as Denny triggered the double-action revolver. The .38 caliber slug from Denny's Lightning ripped into the back of a gunman's left shoulder and knocked him halfway around. He howled a curse and stumbled to the side, but stayed on his feet. His head jerked from side to side as he tried to figure out who had shot him. His eyes widened as his gaze lit on Denny. He still had his gun in his right hand. He lifted it to take